Hello, this is Editing Jack here. This video, during recording it, we were having some Wi-Fi troubles and some glitchy problems, particularly on my end. So there were a few moments where I was speaking and it was kind of just glitchy and cut out. So you'll see me pop in for a little bit, current day Editing Jack, to express my thoughts that were not properly expressed because the internet didn't work. So yeah, it works for the most part throughout the video. It's very watchable still, but excuse any choppiness. I'm editing it out and putting myself in where it didn't work. Hello everyone and welcome to an updated acting prediction video. It has been, I think, about 2 months since we last did this. Jeremy Allen White was our number 3 in Best Actor last time we did this, to give some perspective on the amount of time that it has been. But yeah, a lot has changed since then. We've seen most of the movies in contention besides Marty and Avatar. I don't think Avatar will be contending for acting, so it's really just Marty that is our blind spot here. And yeah, we're a few weeks away from Critics' Choice nominations, Golden Globes.
I think it's very exciting. I honestly think there's a lot of different narratives that could take shape, a lot of different contenders that I think in any other year would be counted out are going to be considered this year, which makes it very exciting. So I'm curious how much overlap we have, because there are a couple, I think, more surprising picks among this group, and it'll be curious to see if we go down that path or not right now.
For sure, for sure. So let's start with Best Actress. Editing Jack's first arrival after it glitched out. Jessie Buckley, locked for a win. Renata, pretty secure for a nomination. She's in the second strongest film with a lead actress. Amanda Seyfried, I think, is going to solely get in there off of Searchlight's campaign power. I think Searchlight always does well with nominations and is one of the best when it comes to campaigning. And they don't, even when they don't have a solid Best Picture nominee, like in 2016, they were still able to get a film like Jackie into Best Actress and Best Costume Design. So even though I don't think Anne Lee is a strong enough film for them to probably get into Best Picture, I do still think that they are strong enough of campaigners, and she's a previous nominee. And the performance wasn't quite as like grand as I expected, given the premise. Not quite as rich and dimensional as I would have liked her character, but I think that's more a script problem than a her problem. It's still a very good performance. I think there are lots of people who do love this film, and in particular her performance. So I think she'll get enough. That combined with like the Searchlight campaign power, I think she'll get enough number 1 or number 2 votes to still sneak in there. Rose Byrne is who I'm having trouble with. I think it might be a little bit of hope predicting on my end the more I think about it. I think she might be my favorite performance of the year. So there's that. But I think she'll do very well with critics groups. I think she could end up winning some stuff like the Gotham Award or LAFCA or Indie Spirit or something. And I do think what separates her from someone like Marianne Jean-Baptiste last year is who's won the trifecta with the critics, which is why I'm worried. Also playing a a complicated female character. I think if she wins one of those awards, like the Gotham or the Indie Spirit, she'll be able to give a speech that people will see, and that wasn't really the case for Baptiste last year. So I think that could really help Byrne. But still, an issue for her is I think she would be the sole nominee for her film. I don't think it's going to get anything else. And voters, when they're busy, they can only watch so many contenders. So they prioritize films that they know are going to be bigger, that they know are going to contend in multiple categories and have a lot more buzz. And the buzz surrounding If I Had Legs I'd Kick You is good buzz, but it's also a buzz that's like, it's a stressful, very, very stressful watch. So I don't know how many Academy members, when they get to their Academy portal, that's going to be one of the things they prioritize. Still, the critics love and hopefully giving speeches and stuff like that. And I think respect for her as an actress and the fact that this performance will surprise people, I think is enough for me to keep her in there for now. And then my last spot, I have Emma Stone for Begonia. I remember in our last video, I was like, there's too many fresh faces in this category. We need some like one spot for an Academy favorite or an Academy veteran. And at that point, I was going with Roberts. And that's obviously not happening as Aftersun's score continues to go down. And I think what I didn't really realize is someone who could fill that spot in the category is Emma Stone. I think just because she's so young, she didn't really cross my mind as like an Academy veteran or favorite. But she's got 4 nominations, 2 wins. I think that is enough cachet for me to consider her a veteran or favorite and fulfill that role. So that's why I still got her there. I don't think Begonia is going to do amazing this award season, in my opinion. I kind of think it might be another sole nomination, unless maybe it gets screenplay. Um, but it will definitely, in comparison to If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You, another potential sole nomination, it will be more seen than that film for sure. I think people are definitely seeing this film. Just talking to local people, people going to like local guild screenings and stuff. There's a lot more demand for this film than some other ones. Begonia is a hotter ticket. And then lastly, Arrivo. I did drop her out because I dropped Wicked from Best Picture. We're going to have a video dedicated to Wicked and its awards chances solo, so I'll keep it quick. But I think it would be odd for the film to have like two acting nominations, multiple tech nominations, and not get Best Picture, as we'll talk about in the upcoming Wicked video. To not be in Best Picture in the preferential era and get nominations, the highest that has been is Wakanda Forever and Foxcatcher. Both got 5 nominations, but were not in Best Picture. So you have to keep Wicked in the 5 or 6 range. And I think, unfortunately, I think Arrivo kind of takes a backseat in this film compared to Grande. I think she doesn't have as many big moments like she did in the first one with Defying Gravity. I think she's still great in it. She's my favorite performance in both of the films. I think I maybe even like her more in this one, but I don't think she really does anything new or unexpected that we didn't see from her in the first film. Whereas I think Grande, the reason why she'll probably still be nominated if the film is underperforming is I do think she shows some different acting talents and does some new stuff in this in comparison to what we saw her do in the first one last year. Lots of people are going to be like, well, we did this last year. Why are we doing it again? I think Grande justifies that nomination by doing a lot more new stuff that we didn't see in the first film. And Arrivo, I don't think gets the opportunity to do as much of that. So that's why I've got her there. And that is it. Let's head back to the video. Anthony, your 5 is very similar. We've only got one difference. You've got Jessie Buckley, Renata Rensby, Cynthia Erivo, Rose Byrne, and a new addition with Chase Infinity for One Battle After Another.
Yes.
What are you
So
thinking about
does that
with
mean
her?
we have two discrepancies, right? Because I you have
Oh
Amanda
no, yeah, that's
Seyfried.
true. We've got 2.
Um, and I have Chase and Cynthia. Yes, I think there is a broader conversation to have about Wicked now that we have seen it. And I don't know if that hurts Cynthia that much because I still think that she has some great moments. I still think the heart of these movies and why people love them is the performances. And I think she is just as you can say that she takes a back seat, but I also think that she does still deliver a powerful performance. And I think a more complex performance in some regards because she has to kind of walk this line of, you know, personal and, political choices, stuff that happens on a macro level and stuff that happens on a micro level. And she truly, in some regards, does become the Wicked Witch more in this film than in the previous. So I think there's a lot still here that makes her a worthy nomination. And I'm going to reference another awards body this year at the Tonys when Death Becomes Her was nominated, and it got a slew of nominations, and both leading actresses got in. And there was the conventional wisdom that it felt wrong to nominate one without the other. And I kind of feel the same way that I feel it odd. Anybody who's marking their ballot for Ariana Grande and supporting is not going to also mark their ballot for Cynthia Erivo. I do think they help each other get the nomination.
They
So
might
I still
rank them
have,
differently though. That
that's true.
ranking is
That's
very
true.
important.
It's
So I think they
possible, but
might rank her higher.
I also think if you look at your list, for instance, all of those movies I think are appealing to a very similar type of voter. I think Cynthia responds to a more populist, a more mainstream, entertaining branch, which is, a considerable amount. And so I'm going to keep her in there. I think to me right now, I think Amanda Seyfried, we have to see how that movie plays. I think it's going to be very polarizing. It could be a great performance for her and her talents, but I could also see it being the type of film that does well in the indie spirit and the indie, circuit, but not one that's able to cross over to Oscars. And then I'm going to throw in Chase Infinity because I do think One Battle After Another is not slowing down. I think it's going to be a juggernaut. I think a lot of people are very impressed with her. She's the ingenue the debut performance. She's the revelation in many ways, along with Teyana Taylor. And I think she will benefit from just the enthusiasm for the movie because I think there's just going to be more people talking about that movie and therefore talking about her than talking about Begonia and Emma Stone. I think that movie is again, it's not considered the best of Stone's work. It's not even considered the best of Stone's work with Lanthimos. So I think she's going to be compared unfavorably to that to her other work. And I also wouldn't put it past. I think people like Leonardo DiCaprio talking Chase Infinity up as they go to all of these different press screenings and Q&A events. I think that there is a chance that she will come along for the ride very similarly that Marina de Tavira did for Roma, in which there was just a lot of mentioning her as being a reason why the movie works so well. And I think a lot of the veteran actors are going to want to support her because they're all getting their flowers for this movie, and they're not going to want to see her left behind. So, for those reasons, I'm going to put those two in, and then I agree with you on Jesse is still the front runner. I think it's a very having seen it now, it's a very physically
Oh, you saw
demanding
it.
role. Yes, very physically demanding. And it's acting with a capital A for a lot of people. And I think they're going to
Yes.
respond to it. And she is such a deserving talent outside of the film as well. And then Rose is just
I
starting to feel
worry
more like
about her.
I see.
So,
I continue to believe she's a "Can You Ever Forgive Me" type of nomination, an actor showing a different side of themselves, somebody we know more so in the comedic world. Um, and there are so many types of these performances this year, and I just feel like she's going to be the one that rises above them all. She's going to
she's going
rise
to get
above
the
the Jennifer
critics love, I think.
Lawrences.
She's going to
Yes.
get win at least one of the trifectas. I just worry. I mean, Marianne Jean-Baptiste won the triple trifecta last year, and she still couldn't get in. So I just worry it might be along that line more than a Melissa McCarthy and Can You Ever Forgive Me? But
I will.
I think there will be a lot of love for her, and I do think there's a lot of respect for her in the industry. And honorable mentions, I would probably also have Jennifer Lawrence in contention. I think she already got the Gotham nomination. I think she could do well with some like critics groups or smaller indie groups. And she is Jennifer Lawrence. She's like got four, I believe, previous nominations. This is seen as a little bit of a comeback for her to at least the more dramatic space. And I think a lot of people consider it some of her best work. So plausible. I think we've pretty much got our top like six or seven contenders there.
Yeah.
And they were all mentioned. Any other thoughts on actress before we move on to actor?
Is there any world in your mind where Jesse doesn't take this, or is that a lie?
I think that's a lock. Who would beat her at this point with Wicked being
I,
weak?
I mean, I'm more. I have more faith in Renata's nomination than you, so maybe in theory I have more faith in her win. Um, I'm because I am a little curious to see how Hamnet performs. I think it's been so well regarded off of the festival circuit that what is the general reaction to it? Because I think we can both attest to this, having seen it. It is like it's a Chloe Zhao movie, and it doesn't have a lot. To me, it doesn't have a
Mhm.
lot of variance. So if you like the one thing that Jesse Buckley does in that movie, then I think you will respond to it. But it's not like there's these great dialogue scenes or these great bits of character work. Where I think Renata, in some ways, I think she benefits from a better script where she gets to sink her teeth more into her character. And if sentimental value overperforms, which is a possibility, it is one of the ones that I think will make people cry, and that's always good in an Oscar campaign. I could see a world where maybe she can surpass Jesse, but we'll see. I want to see what Hamnet's general reaction is first.
Yeah, I mean, Hamlet is definitely a movie that will make you cry too. I think that's kind of
Yeah, yeah.
the big thing to it. I do think it's getting a little overhyped with some of the way Focus is marketing it, with like calling it like the best film ever made. So I think they need to be a little careful about that. Best actor, where I've made a little bit of a change here. This is probably not smart, but I just can see it happening. I have Leonardo DiCaprio for One Battle After Another as my number
Ooh.
one right now, and I've got Timmy Chalamet at number two for Marty Supreme. Then the other four, as you can see, not a ton has changed for me. I've still got Ethan Hawke there now at number three. I think he is potentially win competitive if Sony like pulls off a miracle. Just because I think that lots of people are considering that's like his best career best work. It's Sony Pictures Classics. It's like a makeup transformy role. I don't think they're going to pull it off, but I do see a world where that could potentially happen. Then I've also got I added in Wagner Moura for The Secret Agent. He's getting great recognition. He's going to do great with Critics Awards. I think he's going to hit most precursors besides SAG probably. And that film just continues to be on the rise throughout this season. So I kind of think he's going to come along with it. I'm not super confident in my bottom two here because I've still got Joel Edgerton there at number five for Train Dreams. This might be a little bit combination of hope dictating and actual predicting. He's great in the film. It's one of my favorite lead performances of the year. I think it's career best work from him. It spans decades. I think it is a showy enough performance in a more subtle film that it could get in there. Netflix is great at getting acting nominations. I do think this is their best bet in lead actor in comparison to Clooney in Jay Kelly. And he's also already gotten a few like Critics Regional Film Festival awards, and he's been on the campaign trail. I can see it being something that happens, especially because I've moved the film into Best Picture now. I think it should probably get into, I think, like one other category besides adapted screenplay and maybe cinematography. So those are my okay. Quickly, just because I glitched out when I was talking about it, the DiCaprio and Chalamet thing. I just keep hearing from people who have seen Marty Supreme who say Timmy's Marty character is very unlikable and irritating, and that he can be hard to root for or empathize with. And just looking at past winners and the types of roles that win in this category, not a ton of them are as like super directly unlikable characters. Like there are characters like Laszlo Toth or Arthur Fleck who are unlikable or brash or annoying at times, but you can still empathize and connect to them in a way that, at least from the people I'm talking to, it doesn't seem like on the same level that you're able to connect and empathize with the Marty character. I guess maybe you'd have to go to like back to like Daniel Plainview for Day Lewis last time a character on that level won. But even more than the unlikableness, I think that's something you can overcome. I'm concerned about Timmy's campaign tactics. I think he's not going to do a traditional campaign, and I think a big part of campaigning when it comes to awards is striking the right balance between wanting an Oscar and like maybe too much, and then like not caring at all. I think you've got to strike a balance there. I think you could maybe lean a little more towards not caring at all than wanting it too much, as we've seen with people like a Frances McDormand. And I feel like Timmy's just a pendulum swinging at both ends. Like with all of his interviews, he talks about Oscars and awards a lot. He's campaigning and marketing this film like majorly. He's out there, and I think may come off as a bit too much for some people. So he may be wanting it too much for some people. But then you also see he's not hitting the traditional awards stop points that pretty much everyone did. He skipped the Governor's Awards when he was in down in LA that weekend, and he's really one of the only big names missing there. And that's showing he's not going to do like the traditional campaign things, and that some people may take that as like, oh, he doesn't care, or he doesn't. I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking it, but you know who was there doing the traditional campaign stops throughout award season, not doing a campaign that might rub some people the wrong way? DiCaprio was there. He's campaigning for this film in, I think he's doing it more than he has for his past few films, like Don't Look Up and Killers of the Flower Moon. And he is doing it in the more usual and traditional manner that won't rub voters the wrong way potentially. He's also the lead of the likely Best Picture winner, and the last four films that won Best Picture also awarded their lead actor. Giving DiCaprio a second Oscar just makes sense as well. He's a caliber of actor that I think it makes sense for him to have a second one, especially because he waited so long for his first. And I think lots of people consider this some of his strongest work. I definitely do. And it's also a likable character. He's a very likable character who you can root for. So I don't know. Maybe once I see Marty, I might change my mind, but that is where I am at. It does make sense. And you've got Timmy at number one, and then you've got Leo at two. Our only difference is you've got Michael B. Jordan still for Sinners at three, and then you also have Wagner Moura and Joel Edgerton added in at your four and five.
Mhm. Which, listen, I would love nothing more to see Ethan Hawke in this category and to win this category. He is such a deserving actor, and this might be one of his, it might be his best, if not one of his best. So
Yeah.
I would want that for my heart, but we also, there were a lot of people who were predicting First Reformed for Ethan Hawke, and it didn't happen. And so I kind of see this playing out the same way. I don't think Sony Pictures Classic is going to prioritize this. I don't think that just enough people are going to. I just think this is a low priority screener for a lot of voters, unfortunately. Though it's a great film and everybody should see it. Andrew Scott should be competitive. Margaret Qualley should be competitive. But I have him out. I think Michael B. Jordan is going to be in a Best Picture, in some regards, a Best Picture frontrunner, given the amount of nominations the movie's going to have. And so I think that will benefit him. I also think there's a lot to be made of the Coogler Jordan relationship, and I think that's a great narrative to sell as far as what they've been able to achieve since 2013 when they made Fruitvale Station. As far as the others, I think Wagner Moura is very strong, and I think The Secret Agent, if Wicked for Good is falling in the Best Picture race, I think Secret Agent is rising, and that could be what ultimately takes its spot. And Train Dreams, I also have in Best Picture, which is why I think Joel Edgerton, as a journeyman actor, will get into the category. And then as for that top two, I just get the sense that One Battle After Another is being appreciated for its ensemble. I think it's going to be very strong at SAG for that reason. Where Marty Supreme, he is Marty Supreme. And he's been doing great work. I'm starting to feel that we're going to have a Jimmy Stewart situation where, because he was so good last year in A Complete Unknown, they remember that when giving him the award this year, the same way that Jimmy Stewart missed out on winning for Mr. Smith Goes to Washington in 1939 and then won in 1940 for the Philadelphia story. I kind of see that playing out. And I also think that the campaign is, from what I've seen from people in like different guilds, and of course this is anecdotal evidence, take it however strongly you like, but they're intrigued. They're not isolated by the Marty Supreme campaign. They're intrigued. They're drawn in because I think Timothy has really proven himself as an artist. So they're taking him more seriously than I think somebody else doing that campaign would. So, and I also think there's going to be a lot of love for Marty Supreme. We're going to see it strong in the crafts as well. And this is one of, if not the only places to award it. And so I think the same way we'll get to supporting actress, where a movie has a very strong chance there because it's the one place really to award it. I think Timmy might benefit as well. And he's just been putting consistent work out. And honestly, I could also see a world where, similarly to Cate Blanchett and Michelle Yeoh, where Kate was kind of getting in Michelle's corner, I wouldn't put it past Leo to also be rooting for Timmy by the end of the season because he sees this as like the next coming of, what he represented and the fact that this legacy gets passed on for this, movie star with a capital M. I'm very curious to see how Leo campaigns because he's very charming, very affable, and especially if I would love to see the actors on actors with them. If that was the variety pairing this year, Leo and Timmy, because it would be an interesting conversation.
That would be a very good conversation. I just part of me with like the Kate and Michelle comparison is also like Michelle wasn't the best picture winner, and I think in this case Leo would be in the best picture winner. I also think it's going to win probably one acting award, and we'll get the supporting actress in a second. Once I see it next month, obviously that's like the one bit. But probably once I see it next month and like see the performance, we'll see come December.
Mhm.
I'll probably have him back at number one. But for now, the way things are going, I'm switching it up a little bit just to, make things a little different. And also because, like I said, I can't have my quartet being so young.
Mhm.
Um, and then honorable mentions, I think George Clooney is definitely plausible if Jay Kelly gains more strength. Um, I recently saw the film. Neither Clooney or Sandler are super showy performances in a way. I'd honestly say Clooney is a little more showy, but neither of them scream like clear acting contender to me. We'll see if it is in Best Picture. I mean, he is Jay Kelly, so it's plausible. Jesse Plemons is great in Begonia. I just don't think that film is going to be super strong awards wise overall. I think Emma Stone is a caliber of actor who can overcome that, but I don't think, unfortunately, Jesse Plemons is. Dwayne Johnson, the Smashing Machine, is dead. He'll probably hit some precursors, but I doubt anything major enough for him to like be majorly in the run. Lee Byung-hun is great in No Other Choice. I just want to get in there. I think that is like Neon's number four at this point, is what I would say. And
Mhm.
other people, I mean, Jeremy Allen White, that film has died. Okay, now transitioning over to supporting actress, where this is the category I'm really struggling with the most. I think supporting actor will be pretty easy for us, but this category, I don't know what to do in general with my winners, with who I have getting in there. We did it, Tiana Taylor winning for One Battle After Another. My reasoning last time was because I need one of those. I think One Battle After Another should win an acting award if it's winning Best Picture, and I do have Leo now, but she does kind of make sense to me. She could be kind of like Mahershala Ali in Moonlight, who has a short runtime but an impactful runtime. She's clearly going to be campaigning. She's been out there on the circuit. She's a very likable, charismatic actress. I do just still worry about it though because she isn't in the movie a ton. I think if you were to ask people their favorite performance in Moonlight, I think a lot of people would say Mahershala. If you ask people for One Battle After Another, that question, I don't know if it will be as consensus as Mahershala, that they would say Tiana Taylor, which I worry about, but I don't know who else to put there. So I'm gonna leave her there kind of as a placeholder. Other people who I have in there, I've got Inga Ibsdottir Lilius at number two for sentimental value. I think she is one of the strongest, probably my favorite supporting performance of the entire year. So that might be a little bit of bias coming from me, but I think she is the standout performance in that film. I think she's a great discovery. I think she's a very impact leaves a very big impact for audiences who leave the film. I think she's in some of the like the most important emotional scenes, and she's key to them working. And I do think there's a world where looking at some of the precursors, the BAFTA awards, I don't think Tiana or Grande are going to win there in particular. So I do think there's a world where she could maybe be like Carrie Condon in Banshees and end up winning the BAFTA, and maybe that's it. I think she's probably too unknown to contend for the win at the Oscars. But who knows, especially if sentimental value is on a little bit of a downturn. I do still have Grande there at number three. She's gone up two spots since last time, where I had her at number five, even though I think the film in general is going down. As everyone is talking about, she is kind of the big standout for a lot of people. She gets more to do. She is a lot more emotional in this one compared to this one, or compared to the previous one. So I think that helps her out. I don't know about winning though, which we'll get to that when you talk about your five. But
Mhm.
other than that, I still have Odessa Zion in for Mari Supreme.
Mhm.
I know lots of people are considering Gwyneth above her just from the reactions that I see. It seems like Odessa is a more standout performance of the two. Gwyneth is getting some mentions, but it seems like Odessa is getting a lot more. So I'm leaning that way, kind of like a Monica Barbaro over Elle Fanning last year, but it also could be like a Belfast, where the more veteran performer gets in over the newer performance. And then speaking of veteran performer, these top four I had are all pretty new, young faces, and I couldn't do like have that whole category be just young, new performers. There's I think got to be at least one veteran in here. I was considering doing that with Paltrow and having the double nomination be from Marty Supreme, but what I ended up doing is something that I'm not confident in at all. I put Amy Madigan in my fifth spot for weapons. I think she can get in there, and she's starting to campaign now. I just saw she did an interview at Deadline. She's done multiple different interviews. She's going to be honored at I forget the film festival that does like all those a bunch of honorees, and it's all of them like on the stage together. She's out there. She's campaigning. She's the veteran actress, and which is why I feel like if I put her in here, if she gets in, I honestly think she'll probably win. When I look at the competition, I think it's a great standout career best performance. I think it's a great narrative. She's already talking about how she's like a character actor who has worked for decades, and this is kind of like a big role for her. So I think it's very plausible if she gets nominated, I can see her winning, which is why I'm iffy about putting her in there. But I do think there is enough love for that film and that performance, and looking at the competition for her to get in here. And I moved Elle Fanning out, who's had it, I had in here last time, just because I don't think that film was strong enough to get four acting nominations. And I do think of the supporting actresses. I think Inga stands out more once people see the film, in my opinion, at least. And I also think that there are too many potential double supporting actress nominations. You've got One Battle, you've got Sentimental Value, you've got Marty Supreme. All of them are viable for double acting nominations that I honestly feel like only one of each will probably end up getting in there. And I chose Inga over her. But yeah, that's what I've got for my five right now. We're semi similar here, Anthony. You've got Ariana Grande at number one. You've got Tiana Taylor at number two. You've got Elle Fanning as your sentimental value pick at number three. You also added in Amy Madigan's in for weapons at number four, and you still have Gwyneth Paltrow in there at number five. So we've our only difference really is which of the sentimental value or Marty Supreme actresses we are going for.
Mhm.
But other than that, we've got a very similar list.
Yeah, and I just went for the people that are more known to the Academy and to the actors branch, which is why I went Gwyneth, and why I went Elle. I think Elle will get points from last year. You know, she was in the conversation for A Complete Unknown, and she's doing great work. Yeah, I think she's just been on an upswing. You know, I was never the biggest fan of Elle Fanning, but now I've just been very brought into her, and I think this is her best work yet in sentimental value. And to me, I think she's in many ways the heart of the film. There's a scene that she has with Stellan Skarsgård that is a very complex scene to play, as far as what choice the character has to come to by the end of it. And I just thought it was really moving. And I think the movie responds to her energy more than it does Inga. Inga feels like a very strong supporting performance, but one that is in the background a little bit too often to make it into this category, given that she will be a new name for most people, at least on the American side of the actors branch. So that's why I'm going Elle. I'm going Gwyneth because I do think it has a great comeback narrative. This whole movie kind of fits into her oeuvre because it's about these dreamers and this sort of underdog story. And yes, it's weird to call Gwyneth Paltrow an underdog, but I do think it's great to see her back in a role where she gets to really prove she is a great actress. And I agree with you. I think the reason why I leaned Amy and Gwyneth is to get that veteran, less of a young crop of actors here. I did put in Amy Madigan. I could see a world where she wins. I could see a world where she's not in the five. It is such a unique performance, which is why I think it's so exciting to talk about, and I think that enthusiasm will push her in ultimately. I also put in Weapons as my five in best screenplay. So I could see that supporting her. I think there's some love there because it is a very unique film. And I also think that what I'm starting to see is that Sinners does not need to worry about its performance. Warner Brothers has locked that down. So I think that means that they have more space to then campaign for weapons in these specific categories. So I do have Amy Madigan there. I think it's just it is a unique performance and one that definitely stands out. And I think it benefits her being in supporting rather than like lead actress. I think being in lead has hurt Toni Collette, hurt Lupita Nyong'o. I think being in supporting helps her when she's in a genre role. Um, and then as far as the top two, I agree with you that I think the fact that Teyana is not the undeniable best part of the movie does hurt her, given the how small of a role it is when compared to the other cast. Um, and the reason why I'm going to keep Ariana Grande at number one, other than the fact that she gets points for part one, and they're going to look at this as a whole effort, the fact that she has a great narrative and her relationship to this story is so moving, and I think does move a lot of people when talking about the value of being an actor. I also think people see this as the role of her lifetime. She's made that clear. And I think nothing is more palpable than the passion of an actor saying that I want it to be known that this is important to me. I think that's why Timmy is looking very good coming into Marty Supreme after that SAG speech last year. She's is a lead performance in some regards. We've had that debate with the film itself, but I think to many people she's at least a co-lead, which always benefits. Going up against Teyana Taylor, a much smaller performance, and she sings, she dances, she does action sequences. She's the degree of difficulty is very high. Many people feel this is her movie to shine. And it is the one place really to honor Wicked. I don't think it's going to do that well with the crafts this year. And so I think this is the place to honor Wicked and honor it in a way that is substantial. And I think there are going to be many people who I think, especially given what Ariana Grande is proving to do beyond this movie, I think she is making it clear that she wants to be taken seriously as an actor and she's pursuing roles. And this wasn't just a one-time thing. And I just see a lot of people just being very enamored with her. And what I think she has, I think the greatest skill she has is her humility. I think that she is from everywhere she talks about the craft. She talks about how much she loves the show, how much she loves working with these people, her love for Cynthia. Very rarely, I think, does she talk about herself, which I think only makes people love her more. So she's a great campaigner. So yeah, I think I think this is the most exciting race because there are so many different narratives at play and there are so many different possibilities. You can play with this Rubik's Cube in so many different forms.
Yeah, this is definitely like the longest list of potential contenders of any acting category. I think you've got like a solid like 10 plus who are very viable for getting nominated. So it's very interesting to see how it's going to play out overall. I do think there's still a world where Grande wins. Even I don't even have the film in Best Picture, but I still think even if it's not in Best Picture, there's a world where she wins because, like you said, she's a lead. I think people see this as a level up performance wise. So it's plausible. I'm not really confident with my winner at all, so take it with a grain of salt. It could be Tiana, it could be Grande, it could be Madigan, which is why this race is so fun to watch because I think
Such different
the actors
characters.
category is locked up pretty much. Lead actor, I think we're down to one or two, and then supporting actor. Well, but first, some supporting actress met honorable mentions. I think maybe Regina Hall is potentially. I think Emily Watson is viable for Hamnet, even though I think it's a small role. I think there's a world where maybe she gets the
Very
BAFTA
small role.
nomination.
It is a true supporting performance, but I don't it's like I feel like it's very like even with supporting performances, people have to come out and talk about, oh, but Elle Fanning was so wonderful. Like I don't think people are doing that with Emily Watson, unfortunately. She is great in the movie though.
Yeah, I think it is ultimately too small of a supporting role. I think there's a world where maybe she does still get the BAFTA nomination, but that's probably it because I do think Hamnet will do great there. But I think with the size of that role, I think you kind of have to be maybe like a name on the level of like Judi Dench in Belfast to still get in there. And I don't think, unfortunately, Emily Watson is quite that respected or beloved within the Academy. Then other than that, I mean, Wunmi Masaku, I would love to see it for Sinners. I just don't think that's going to happen. I think Sinners is struggling with acting nominations in general, so I don't think, unfortunately, she'll be able to get in there. And yeah, I mean, Emily Blunt for The Smashing Machine, that's kind of dead. Glenn Close for Wake Up Dead Man, I don't think it's going to happen. Nina Haas for Hedda, one of my favorite performances of the year. I'd love to see it, but maybe some critic mentions, but I also don't think that will really happen. So that's pretty much it. Supporting actor. This is interesting. We've got the same five that it seems like pretty much everyone else has, just a little bit of a different order. My orders, I've got Paul Mescal for Hamnet, Stellan Skarsgård for Sentimental Value, Sean Penn, Benicio del Toro, and then Jacob Elordi for Frankenstein. I'm
Woo!
not confident. Yes, he's coming around. I'm not super confident in having Paul as my winner. I'm not confident in either of my supporting winners right now. I just when I look at I think when I look at like the potential precursor run, I do think of the top three in contention with Mescal, Skarsgård, and Penn, I think Mescal has the most clear, like Beatty, dramatic, like acting performance of the three. I just don't think Penn is going to campaign much. I think Del Toro is going to take more votes from him voting wise than I think people
They're gonna
expect. I think
split.
last time I'm going to interrupt. With this, I think I might switch over to Skarsgård. Honestly, it just is making a little more sense to me than having two Hamnet acting wins. I just do think it's a strong performance, and he's a more of a veteran actor. But the reason am still considering and maybe still have Mescal at number one is just looking at the precursor path. I don't think Penn is even in major contention, in my opinion. Maybe that's a hot take. I just don't think he's the clear favorite between the two, one battle after another potential nominees. Yeah, there's some baggage surrounding him. I don't think that'll be a major deal. He's likely not going to campaign much. That would be giving him a third Oscar. I think it's just a lot going against him. I think it's in my opinion, Skarsgård versus Mescal here. Um, and Skarsgård's performance is more of a subtle, subdued performance. It's a largely international foreign language performance, which, as we've seen, SAG does particularly not go for. I think he'll be nominated, probably, but I don't think there's a world where he wins that. And then I think when you look at Mescal, he's giving easily, in my opinion, the showiest, most dramatic performance of the three. He's in the strongest film of the three, in my opinion. I think he'll win BAFTA because I think BAFTAs are just going to go crazy for Hamnet, and I think that would include him winning. Skarsgård could win that, maybe. That's why I think it's really between those two. And then I think SAG, I feel like maybe the most confident about him there because he's one of the biggest actors of his generation. It's a big dramatic performance. He's more of a name, I would say, than a Skarsgård or a Penn, at least with a lot of people in the current industry moment. And I just don't think that they're going to go to a international foreign performance, especially because Sentimental Value doesn't really appeal to SAG's more populist taste, like a Emilia Perez, which was in a foreign language performance. That's also a bigger like the biggest grossing actress of all time and a more SAG appealing film. And I don't really think they're going to go for Penn or Del Toro. I think that'll be a split pretty much everywhere. So I think if there's a world where Mescal can win BAFTA and SAG, then how does he not win the Oscar at that point? Those are your two most important precursors. I think that's a very plausible world. There's also a world where Stellan wins everything besides SAG. So I think I'm really between those two. And the conversation will now continue.
I really think this is Stellan Skarsgård's. I think Paul is going to be. I can't see a world where we don't give it to Timmy, but we give it to Paul so soon. I also find that his performance, like he left the movie for considerable amounts of time, and it felt weird that I didn't realize it. Like he would come back and be like, "Oh, you haven't been here for a while." Like I don't think the movie asks that much of him,
Really?
because that. Yeah, I don't. I mean, my issues with Hamnet are just that I think on a script level, the characters just seem that they exist within the nature of the world, but I didn't feel like I feel like it was a mood piece more than it was like a drama in the traditional sense. Even I think when compared to Nomadland, Nomadland at least benefited from the revolving door of different characters that gave that movie a different energy. Where there's like a sameness that hits Hamnet, and it's consistent, and I think they achieve what they're going for. But I think when it came to Paul Mescal, I think his big scene is the when he's directing the actor. And I don't know, that wasn't that, you know, it's
He's got
not
the
that it
to
wasn't
be or not to be seen too.
Yeah, which it's a little hokey. Whenever they have these big things like that
Oh,
happen at a desk, I'm sorry, that did not happen with you looking at a
well,
p
yeah,
like and I'm just like I don't know, but
it's not going to be
it
completely
wasn't that
consistent.
like revelatory. Where I think for me, Stellan Skarsgård is so beautiful and subtle, and how he reveals his character and the different desires he has. And I think he's what I find so beautiful about that performance is that you feel the effect of his performance when he's not on screen. It's when Renata Reinsve is just reacting to something, and then you can imagine his character in your mind's eye. I just feel like it's a deeply affecting performance. He has the veteran, journeyman actor. Everybody has seen something I think that they have loved him in, which I think is really beneficial, whether it was Mamma Mia to Avengers to, independent films, he's ran the gamut as far as like what people have, like just things that he has associated himself with. And he is, I think, in many ways, the heart of that movie. And it's a way to honor sentimental value, which, could be going on a downslope. I don't necessarily see it that dramatically as you do, but regardless, I think this is a place to honor that movie, which is going to have a lot of love. So I feel pretty, I feel, I'm trying to think. I mean, other than Jesse, I would probably say that I feel most strongly about Stellan winning. He would be my second most, um, like I think he is in a very strong place to win, and then Timmy and Ari in the other on the
What do
other
you?
side.
Well, I just worry about his precursor path because I think he probably won't be, but I think there's a world where maybe he even gets snubbed at the SAG Awards just because they don't like performances at all. They don't really go for them in general. Besides Amelia Perez, they haven't. I mean, I don't think this doesn't appeal to them. This is more of like an Anatomy of a Fall in terms of style and performance
I
than an
think
Amelia
I
Perez, which I think appeals with like stars and Netflix and all that. I think it's much more appealing to SAG than a sentimental value would be. So I don't think
yeah
he would win that or maybe even get nominated. And then I think BAFTA Hamnet is going to be beloved there. And I think there's a world where maybe Paul Mescal ends up winning over there. And so then would Stellan just win based off like Golden Globe and Critics' Choice? I think this is going to be a very split
yeah
race overall.
yeah it'll be split. But I could see a world where he wins BAFTA. I could see a world where he wins Globe, and I wouldn't put it past SAG. I mean, SAG has shown themselves capable, and I also don't think in a world where one battle wins ensemble. I just don't know who would win. Like you could say that Paul
I
could
think
win
Paul.
SAG, but I don't know. I really do think that Paul's I just I don't know. I get the sense that that movie is going to be having seen it now. I think it's Jesse. The movie is Jesse. If honestly, if to be perfectly honest, if it was me picking the ballot, Jacoby Jupe would be in there before Paul. That'd be my
Interesting.
pick.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Paul
I think
is, I
that's a
think
more
Paul is,
that's a harder performance and a more crucial performance to the success of the movie.
I think, yeah, they're both very crucial. But Paul really surprised me in this film. I do think this is his strongest work. And I also, it started screening around here in LA to like the acting guilds and such. And I think from what I just feel like, especially with that To Be or Not to Be monologue, that's a monologue that so many actors have heard, whether it's in auditions or acting class or everything. I think he like gives a new like spin on it and gives like renders it in a new way that I think is hard for any actor to do. I think an actor seeing a rendition of a monologue that they've seen like probably hundreds of times in a new light, I do think is a bit of a plus for him. I think it's a very strong
Yeah.
performance overall, and I do think I think he can easily win BAFTA, and I think he can easily win SAG. I think he is stronger to win the SAG award than Stellan is, just because he's a bigger star name. They've shown with Timmy they're not afraid to go with younger actors. And I think this is his strongest work. I think it's the most dramatically showy work, which is what SAG
Yeah.
tends to like. And he's
But
a bigger name.
they also, I mean, you look at your Troy Kotsurs, you look at your Kiwi Kwans, they love these lovable father roles, and that's Stellan.
Is he
You know,
lovable?
by the end of it, yeah, I think he's a complex man, but I think I mean, the whole movie is in many ways, I won't spoil it, but about reaching this understanding that this is a man with great empathy. And I think that's what I think. There's a lot. I think in a lot of ways that there are the movies like after the farewell, everybody called their grandmother. I could see a world where people are leaving sentimental value calling their dads.
I think
And
Shakespeare is a better dad in Hamnet than Stellan Skarsgård is in
yes,
Sentimental
the
Value.
dad who's not there for a major moments of the kid's life.
He's
Um,
there more than the Stellan Skarsgård character was, it
I don't
seems, for
know.
their
We'll see.
children's life.
Um, but the other thing to keep in mind, though, is that you don't deny that there's a world where Timmy and Ari win, right?
Yeah, they could both win. Yeah.
Okay, so Timmy, Ari, Jesse, Paul. I
Well,
mean,
that's not my list though. That's
I
why
understand,
I had to give
but
Leo the win. And I do think if they're the most likely like veteran to bring up the average age of the quartet, I do think it's probably Stellan or Leo, one of those two,
yeah.
unless Amy Madigan takes off too. Stellan
Mhm.
is very plausible. I'm
Wait,
hanging on to Paul right now.
that's fascinating because we've proven with A Quiet Place with Emily Blunt that they are willing to do that in that category. So Ariana versus Amy Madigan at SAG, fascinating. That's
I would bet
really
on
interesting.
Madigan. I would bet on
I,
Madigan,
I don't
honestly.
know. I mean, remember last year they nominated Jonathan Bailey. SAG loves Wicked, so I could see them going for Ari. And I honestly think SAG might decide supporting actress. I mean, it could be that indicative, depending on the calendar, but it could at least reveal where we're heading if it happens
I don't
after the
think
voting
BAFTA
window is
will
blocked.
help, honestly, because I
No,
don't think BAFTA will go for any of the top contenders. I think they will probably go
well,
for Inga.
unfortunately, you have two very mainstream Hollywood performances, and then you have a woman of color, which BAFTA has never shown that inclined to vote for. So yes, I agree with you. BAFTA is not going to really. I am curious to see.
Who would
So,
you have winning BAFTA? Because you don't have Inga getting nominated, so I would imagine you probably
well,
wouldn't think she would win BAFTA.
I mean, Inga could get nominated at BAFTA. I don't know. I get the sense it's. I feel like it's honestly in my mind right now. I feel like many people, if they're predicting both of them, they have Inga ahead. Where it could be the reverse, where Elle ends up coming out, and it'll be the reverse, where last year we thought Elle was ahead, and then Monica Barbaro came out at the end. I could see it flipping, just because I just think Elle is a bigger part of the movie. I mean, she's
Really? I feel
in
like
many ways
Inga's
she's
like
the.
the heart of the film.
I mean, I don't know. The conflict of the movie is rooted in Elle's fanning character's existence in the story. And again, one of my favorite scenes of her is when she makes that ultimate decision in the third act. There was just more. I just felt there was more to her. Inga was phenomenal and a crucial part of the film. I think there was more for Elle in the story, and I also, again, I just think that they're going to respond to Elle Fanning more because we've seen her grow up, and this is a great showcase for her.
But
Yeah,
I think Inga is a sneaky heart of the film. I think she's part of the scene that I think makes lots of people cry, for sure.
they could both
And
get in. I mean, that is a world.
definitely plausible. I think that's the most likely double supporting actress nomination of the potential ones. Speaking of, we've got a double supporting actor nomination here with Penn and Del Toro. I think they're both pretty locked up at this point, especially because the film is very
Locked up
strong.
like
I
lockjaw.
I do think they're yeah, exactly. And I do think they're going to split votes like we said.
Yeah.
I don't think Sean Penn is as clear of a standout as lots of people make it seem like he is. I think that's a divisive performance. Like me personally, I was not huge. I think that's a performance that you can see, oh, this person is acting,
Mhm.
in my opinion. He's definitely going for it. Whereas I think Del Toro is a much more like subdued, realistic, likable character, also more comedic. So I do think they split votes overall, and I don't think either of them will end up winning. But I think they're
And are
both pretty
you,
safe for the nomination.
and for Elordi, I feel very strongly, especially with the overperformance of Frankenstein and the
Yeah.
Crafts. I think it's a great narrative to lean into. It's surprising. I think he's a new, heartthrob movie star. He has Wuthering Heights coming up. I feel very strongly about him getting in. The one that I just have my eye out is Josh O'Connor because everybody's raving about him in Wake Up Dead
Oh,
Man,
he's
but I
great.
just don't. And he's been so good in so many movies this year, but I still think there's a stigma around that series of taking it seriously in any other category than screenplay.
Yeah, I fear unfortunately the film won't be. I think the film is like maybe not even gonna get screenplay. I don't think that because Netflix, the Glass Onion year, campaigned that really hard because they at that time of year they didn't know what they were doing. All Quiet was still not their clear front runner, so I think they thought there was
Yeah.
a world where Glass Onion could be, and I don't think they're putting the same campaign money behind this that they are that film, and that film still only got screenplay. So I don't think that film in general is going to be strong enough for him to get in there. But Netflix always gets some acting nominations, and I do think Jacob Elordi is probably their best bet this year. It's their strongest
Yeah.
film in picture. He's
Well,
campaigning. He is out
he
there
is
campaigning.
campaigning, and I think that the competition is going. I think Adam Sandler and Billy Crudup being both from Jay Kelly and people being high on both of them is going to cannibalize them.
Hmm.
And I think both of them are going to falter. I also just don't see a world. I just don't have Jay Kelly really performing anywhere. And it would be odd for Adam Sandler to just pop in when they've proven that they have a distance towards him. I mean, if they can't do Uncut Gems, I find it hard that they would do Jay Kelly. And granted, Jay Kelly's probably more to the Academy taste than Uncut
It's
Gems,
more
but
palatable
I
for
don't.
sure.
I don't see that happening. I don't see a world where Adam Sandler gets it and George Clooney doesn't.
I do think Clooney is the more standout performance of the two, but neither of them I liked the film overall. I liked it more than I thought I was going to, but neither of them screamed like incredible
Who would,
performances that have to be honored.
if you had to nominate one or the other, would you nominate Sandler or Crudup?
I liked Sandler is very subtle in his role, and he doesn't really have a ton to do. I mean, he's there throughout, but it's not. He doesn't like. Crudup is in like pretty much one scene. And it's like the best scene of the film, and he's like incredible in it. So I would probably choose Crudup over him, but he's only in one
Crudup,
scene.
Crudup feels like Judd Hirsch in The Fablemans. Like he has
If
that
the
one
film was
scene that
strong,
comes
yeah.
in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if the film was strong, he could potentially pull an upset over Sandler like Hirsch did Dano, but I don't think Jake
Mhm,
Kelly is that strong overall. He could hit one precursor in Crudup and maybe surprise, but
mhm.
overall, I don't think that would happen. And yeah, just when you look at the other competition, it just makes me a little more confident in Elordi because I do think, like we said, he's campaigning, he's out there, it's Netflix, and I think like lots of people like when you ask people like at these awards junkets like or at the governors awards lots of people that are saying Frankenstein is one of their favorite films that they've seen recently, and lots of people when they mention it the first thing they mention is Jacob Elordi. And like we
Yeah.
say with a lot of these categories, when you're the first thing people mention about your film, that is a great sign for you in general.
Yeah.
People are thinking about you when they think about the film, and they're thinking about Frankenstein. I
Could
don't think
he
it's gonna
win?
get no, no. I just don't think that
You
kind
don't
of
think so?
performance and being that young. I think Paul Mescal is the better younger actor in contention for a win here. I think he's more plausible because he's in a stronger film, and I think it's just a more directly
Yeah.
appealing performance. Whereas I think the nomination is the win here. I can't think of
Yeah.
he doesn't Lordy doesn't speak much in this. It's a lot of physical work. He's more in the second half of the film where he gets to show off his work and monster performances in general. This is kind of going to be an outlier if he does get nominated, but I do think the work is so strong that
Yeah.
I mean, him and Madigan both getting in is a big, after they're the subsets, it's a great sign for horror in
Yeah.
general.
I think we are seeing the benefits of a younger academy, of a more international academy. And I also think, I mean, it's interesting to say, 8 years after the Me Too movement, but I think the Weinstein era of Oscar bait is over. I mean, I think Everything Everywhere to me was the year that Oscar bait died. Because that was like the fact that that movie could win 7 Oscars, including Best Picture, was telling us that everything. That I think we are reaping the benefits of that timeline of the substance getting in there. Even something like Barbie getting in there. I think is it's just we're in a different world, and I for once we're in a better world because of the
Yeah.
Oscar season we're in. That these are the type of performances. Because 15 years ago, Jay Kelly would be all over this.
Oh yeah, Jay Kelly is total old Academy catnip, which is why I do think, especially if Wicked is falling off, there's a world where it does get in there. But I just struggle coming up with the nomination for it because I don't think either of the actors are strong enough, and then it would probably just be screenplay, and that doesn't seem super likely to me. Other than that, I think we've also
And
got both the
we just real quick, because Sentimental Value is doing a very similar thing to Jay Kelly, and in some regards, the general consensus is it's doing it better. There is another movie about the making of art and movies this season. I think that also hurts Jay Kelly. That
they're
needs to be
both
said
about
more.
fatherhood in general. I mean, Jay
That
Kelly
too.
is very much about his relationship with his children and how his art has taken away from his relationship with his children. I think Sentimental Value is the much more mature take on that, and I do think in a more international academy, as we have seen, I think that will appeal to them much more in general. I think Jay Kelly is a little more of the like general palatable, more schmaltzy kind of thing that the old academy would have probably gone for more. And other than that, in supporting actors, just worth mentioning both the Sinners actors with Delroy Lindo and Miles Caton, maybe especially Lindo, but I just think looking at the competition, I worry about Sinners getting acting nominations in general. I think that it's seen as more of an ensemble. And I worry about Sinners in general in terms of I think it'll get good tech nominations. I hope it gets director. I think it'll get screenplay, but I do worry about it like underperforming a little bit.
If Delroy couldn't get in for Defy Bloods, I just don't see him getting in for Sinners.
Yeah. Yeah. True that. You mentioned Josh O'Connor. Also, quickly, William H. Macy is incredible in Train Dreams. If that's on the upsurge, maybe, but it's a small role. It's a small, more subtle role. And I just don't think, looking at the competition here, I think we've got four locks, and then Jacob Elordi is looking very strong. That I don't think, honestly, any of these actors will be able to overcome him in that last spot. So
And
I
he's in
honestly
one of the
think
stronger
this
movies.
might be our all of our. Usually, there's one in the supporting categories that are in films that are not in Best Picture, which is something that I bring up usually. And if you look, I guess who would fill that in supporting actress is Amy Madigan or Ariana Grande. But in supporting actor, our list is composed of all performances in Best Picture. But that happens
I do
sometimes. I think
think
it happened 2016 in supporting actress.
yes. Well, we have to look at if Ari stays strong but Wicked falls off. When's the last time that supporting, specifically supporting actress, went to an actor who wasn't in a Best Picture nominated film? Especially in a year of 10, that will be an interesting stat for her to overcome. But again, her major competition might be Amy Madigan, who
Regina
was also not going to be in Best
Regina King,
Picture.
I
So
think.
okay, so doesn't happen often. That's something to
Yeah.
keep in mind. And that was a year of 8, wasn't
It
it?
happens for a more veteran performer.
Yeah.
That was a year of 8. Yeah. That was a
And we
year of 8.
can, I feel like if Beale Street Could Talk would have been in the 10.
I hope. I don't know. I hope so.
I just want to repeat it for the people who need to hear it. Jack did make Ariana Grande go higher on his list.
Exactly.
She did
Exactly.
rise.
She rose still. I will say I should not fault of peer pressure though in general, just because I feel like at the start of the year I was like, fine, I'll put Wicked in there, even though I think I said in our early video like it could be Wakanda Forever and not get picture.
It's a good
Um,
comp. It's a good comp for sure. Wakanda Forever is a good
so
comp.
we'll see. It's
But
definitely it's early days for Wicked, so it's hard
I
to
want
say.
Ari to win somewhere, even if it's Critics' Choice. Like I want
She
Ari to
did win
get
Epic
on.
last year, yeah.
Yeah, I want her to win somewhere, and I think that's possible. I think she can win somewhere this year and give a speech.
Yeah, yeah, it's plausible for sure. It will be that's like we said, that's the most interesting race to watch for sure
Mhm.
in this upcoming award season. Which race are you guys most excited to watch? Which comment your predictions for supporting actors in particular, just because I need help in that. I think we all need help in that category. But all of your predictions down below. Who are you rooting for? Who do you think could be some surprise nominations that we aren't maybe seeing right now at this point in late November? And yeah, thank you all for watching. Like the video, subscribe, and stay tuned for more upcoming stuff.